Hi guys, it's Tammy again with Pretty Presets, and I'm gonna try and keep this video nice and short, go through my workflow nice and fast so that I can keep the size of the video small. Basically what I wanna show you is, again, like the video we had a few days ago, is workflow, being able to look at your photo and decide how to change your white balance and your shadows and your exposure. So when you're clicking on a preset, you are not just saying, oh no, I don't like that one, it doesn't work. Clicking on a preset and then understanding what it is you need to change to make the preset work with your photo and with your photo settings. So I'm gonna use this image right here, and I just copied it 5 times at the bottom because I'm gonna use a couple different presets. So this is straight out of camera. This is exactly how I shot it. The first thing I would do when I look at this in my normal day-to-day workflow, I'm gonna straighten it out because crooked horizons wear me out. So it's just one of those personal things. I can't get past looking at a crooked photo. So that went ahead and straightened it out. I'm also going to crop it in just a little bit like that. So I'm gonna bring them in a little closer, maybe not quite that far. I don't want to cut her little foot off at the bottom, right there. So in terms of white balance, when I look at this, this is really very accurate for what it looked like in person. It wasn't super warm, it wasn't super bright. They were in a shadow compared to my background here. In terms of being really blue or being really orange, they are neither. They're pretty well in the center. I am recording this video with my phone, so it does tend to naturally change the color a little bit. So in this video, I feel like it's showing you them a little bit warmer than they are on my screen. On my screen, they're pretty cool, but a good exposure. It's obviously a little dark in here. Because the sun wasn't shining on them, the sun's behind them. So your person is always gonna be a little bit more shadowed. So I'm not actually going to adjust anything here because it's not screaming, I'm too warm or I'm too cool. It's really just kind of chilling in the middle. So this is ready now for me to try a preset on. So over here, I'm gonna start with all natural, which really tends to be one that I use a lot. So I'm gonna click on that, and really where the problem is, overall the photo is exposed properly, but they're just a little bit dark. So that's where you're gonna start with your radial filters. It's the circle here. I have it on Dodge Lighten, which all that means is it's turning my exposure up 0.25. I'm going to put that over them, and look at the difference already. It brightened them up, it brought our attention to them. Now I'm gonna hit my brush tool, which is right next to the radial filters, and I'm going to pick shadows, and I'm gonna turn, it's at 24, which is about normal. So I'm gonna come in here because the mom's face is just a little bit dark still, but I don't wanna brighten it up. I just wanna take out some of this shadow so that I can see the details. We're not losing anything in here. Do you see the difference here? And I don't really want it down here on her face, but I do want it right up here where it just got a little bit shadowed. There wasn't really enough light right there on their faces. So I'm gonna hit done on that, and already you saw every single step I took. Here is the original, what it looked like. Here is literally one click on the preset, one radial filter, one brush tool. Honestly, it's really about all I would do here. I might take my brush tool, and I do this a lot of times if my background is bright like this and my person is sitting in a shadow. I have highlights selected. I'm gonna turn them down, and I'm gonna brush over the sky back here to just tone it down so that it's not grabbing your attention so much. So I'm not really turning down the exposure, I'm just turning down the highlight, which is what you've got to start breaking your photo down into these parts where your highlights are, the brightest part of your photo, where your shadows are, the darkest part of your photo, your overall exposure, exposure on your subject. And here's something you've really got to wrap your head around that it takes a minute as a photographer. Your subject and all the ground around them is never all going to be exposed properly, because you have to either expose for your person or you have to expose for your background, and they're never the same. So you're going to have to adjust something. I choose generally to try and kind of get in the middle where you haven't blown out your background, but you also haven't overly darkened your subject, and then you darken your background in and you lighten your subject to balance it all out. So I'm going to jump over here to the next one. I'm gonna leave this one just so that we can kind of go through in the end and look through all of them. So again, the very first thing I'm doing, I'm coming down here to auto to straighten it out. I'm gonna crop it in a little bit. And then I'm going to do this black and white, because a lot of times people think that you can't really adjust black and white, or you're not really sure how. It's really the same principle. Where is it too light and where is it too dark? So I'm gonna come down a little bit, and I want to turn up the shadows a little bit overall. And then I'm also going to hit the radial filter here again. And I don't want it on highlights. I actually want it on shadow. So I'm gonna click shadow. And again, it's turned up to 24 because that's where I generally leave it. And I'm just gonna put that on them. And I'm actually gonna slide it up here so it's more towards mom than it is her. I'm gonna hit done. I'm also going to turn down my highlights some, because overall I feel like it's just too much for this photo. So if I turn down my highlights, and generally speaking, when I edit, I usually end up having my highlights turned down as much as my shadows are turned up. Not always exactly, but they balance fairly well, because it tends to look less harsh. So you're not having hard shadows. And then I'm gonna hit my brush here, and I'm gonna come, leave it on shadows, and I'm gonna just come put it on her face here. And again, sort of in the same place I did it before, to bring back some of the details of her dark dress, her face, just so that we're not losing anything. Hit done. And that's really all that I would do on this black and white. So I'm gonna click here onto the next one. Again, I'm gonna come down here and straighten it out. And once you start doing these things, they just become so quick and your workflow just gets done. Okay, so another preset that I really love is Pashmina right here. I also like Crystal Springs. I'm gonna click on Crystal Springs just because when you roll over this, you might go, oh wait, no, that's too much green and it's too dark on my client, right? When you look at this right now, you think to yourself, oh no, I can't see anything. Her dress is too dark, her face is too dark, it's not really flattering for her skin. But you've got to remember, there's too much shadow in here on her. We already know that. So overall, it's pretty. It's just too shadowed right here on my subject. So overall, first of all, it's too cool and it's too green. So that's where your white balance comes in. So look at the difference when I just warm it up a little bit. Now, I love the way it makes all the ground look, but they are still too dark, too shadowed, and a little bit orangey. Radial filter. Shadows are already selected. Hit them with that. Look at the difference already, just lifting up the shadow on the client. So also what you can do inside of a radial filter that so many people forget is if you feel like they're a little bit too orangey, just turn it down a little bit. You can turn down your saturation just within the circle. So it's already taken down that little bit of orange we were seeing in the shadow, and then you can hit your brush here, and that's how you only put it where you want it exactly. So I'm gonna leave shadows, and again, I'm gonna turn my saturation down a little bit, and I'm gonna brush it on this darker part of her to bring her back out just the very top of the daughter's face, up into the hair. We don't ever want blonde hair to look brassy. Hit done. And I'm even gonna turn up my exposure just a hair overall, okay? And then I'm gonna turn down my highlights. And look how well it's balancing out the whole photo. So again, I'll come back. This was the original, and this is now with the Crystal Springs preset. So I'm gonna click here onto my third photo. I'm gonna come down, you guessed it, straighten it, crop it, and then I am going to turn on Wild Orchard, which the greens are all very different. But again, when you just look at this, you go, wait a minute, the background is too bright and my subject is too dark. Radial filters. You've got to start figuring out where and how you change these parts of your images. So right away, I'm gonna turn down my highlights pretty much all the way because I don't want it blown out. I'm gonna hit the radial filter. We're gonna be on Dodge Lighten. I'm gonna put it right on my people. I'm gonna turn up the shadows just a little bit, and you can adjust anything within this filter or start a new one. It's totally up to you. I'm gonna hit my brush. It's still on Dodge Lighten because I wanna lighten Mom's face. I wanna lighten her dress. This space right here between them. And even after you've brushed it on, I'm gonna do this extreme, you can see that you can change it even once it's on. So if you need more brightness, you just change it while it's on there. It's great. You can really see what you're doing. You can see exactly where it's going. You can turn it up and down. You can come back and adjust it later. I love, if you're not using this for editing, you're really, really, really missing out. Again, I would take my brush and I would come over here just in these little flowers a little bit too with this preset, just to brighten this all up a tiny bit. Hit done. And again, after this, I would go in and do a little bit of skin softening maybe on my ladies here, but I'm gonna start here again at the beginning. So this was straight out of camera. This is all natural. This is Black Beauty. This is Crystal Springs. And this is Wild Orchard. And you can see how different they all are, but they're all really pretty. You've just got to adjust what you are seeing to make the preset work for your photo. So I hope that's helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. It's kind of weird, I know, with the lighting tries to change because my phone's automatically trying to sort of compensate for the overall lighting in here. But if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.